All right, all right. Good morning. How's everyone doing? Hope you're all well. Karibuni sana. This beautiful and lovely 31st day of January 2025. 100 days of January are finally over. And we thank God for that. But we're really glad that you could join us. Karibuni sana. For the sake of guys who are new here, John Bogo is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit, so it's not a one-man show. We do have the rest of the team here. So in case you do have any questions, any requests, feel free to send them in on the chat box. The team will definitely be getting back to you, but I will also be looking at those questions towards the very tail end of this session. And of course, for the guys who are going to be watching this rebroadcast, feel free to comment, and we'll definitely be getting back to you. And of course, we do value your feedback. So we're going to jump straight into it. So as always, we'll start off by looking at the watch list. So that's where everything begins. So you can see the watch list right there. This 31st day of January, that's what we're going to be looking at. It's more or less copy paste. Based on what we did have yesterday. The only change that we do have is gold, which has joined the buy side of things. So feel free to take note of that. So I guess since there isn't much of a recap in terms of the currency pairs that we don't have today that we did have yesterday, we can look at a screenshot that we did get. And this one is from George. So George, shout out to you. If you're here, you're going to be watching this later on. This was a really good trade. So this is on gold. Good to see that you got a really good buying opportunity on this one, as price was breaking out of this particular region right here. So I guess you enjoyed the buy for the whole of yesterday. As price was going up, I can see that your stop loss is already way above your point of entry, which is good, but at least also giving the market sufficient room to do its thing. So this is really good. So shout out to you for that, George. And of course, do keep up the good work. So remember, guys, if you do get any trades, feel free to send them in to us via WhatsApp. Our contact details are right there in the video description. We'd be more than happy to see what you're up to. And also, in case we do see anything wrong, then we'll definitely advise you. And of course, if we do see something good, then at least we'll commend you for it and give you the much needed credibility that you need. So feel free to send them in to us. So jumping straight into matters today. So we'll start off by looking at the AUD pairs, mix and match them up with all the currency pairs on the buy side, then move on to the euro pairs, then finish off with the card pairs, then finish off, last but not least, with the commodities and the indices. So we'll start off with the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, the bus was to try to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And you can see the three regions right there that Mitch had pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. We're expecting maybe price to come back in within this particular region right here. But unfortunately, it did come back in, but we couldn't get anything to tell us to look for selling opportunities. So you can see that price came back in within there, broke to the upside, actually held above. But it technically does seem like it did come back in all the way to within this region. You can see that there was some sort of a major reaction, by the sellers from within that particular region right there. And you can see that the market has come back in more or less within this same region. So we will be trying to see whether we can get some sort of a slowdown of the buyers within that area. At least we do know that we do have a bunch of sellers who are going to be waiting within that particular region. Hopefully, they will be interested in pushing the market lower. If that does end up being the case, then we will be on the lookout to see whether we could get some sort of a price action signal within here. There's a possibility we could get some sort of a probe. Maybe price might attempt to go higher than this, but at least if price does come back into the downside, then I guess we could possibly get a very, very good selling opportunity on this one. So do watch out for that. But remember that in case price breaks above this red SNR to the upside, then unfortunately, at that point in time, there will be no trade for us. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Australian dollar. So for this one, yesterday we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas that Mitch had pointed out, and also an illustration of what to expect. Price did come back in within this region, although it was a bit of a choppy mess that was going on within here. You can see that price broke to the downside, then went up quite aggressively, then came back down, still bounced off this region, attempted to go up higher, but you can't see that there's some sort of a pullback. So I guess there could be some sort of a range. It's pretty clear, that's starting to form somewhere within these two levels right here at the top. And we definitely know that if we're in a range, then the best buying opportunities are definitely at the bottom of the range. That's exactly where we are. So we just need to see more of what happens within here. You can't see that the market has started to seem like it's doing some sort of a probe. Maybe the buyers who are sitting within these regions have possibly started activating, their buys, and they've moved to the upside. So we'll be waiting to see what does end up happening. Hopefully we do get the market coming back up and holding within here, watching out for the times. Maybe during the London market open at 11, we could possibly get the market moving to the upside. If that doesn't happen, then just have a look out for the US session, from around 4, 5:30. Maybe you could get the market moving at those times. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the bottom. It's a bit of a long shot, but you could easily find the price coming back in within there. And if it does, then at least we do know that that's going to be the last area where we will be attempting our aggressive buying opportunities. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday, we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three regions right there that Mitch had pointed out, and also an illustration of what to expect. So in the morning, price was here. I'm expecting maybe to get some sort of a pullback, maybe back within that region there. But you can see that the pullback couldn't come back in all the way till there. I guess the sellers were really in control. So you can see that the market just came back just within this conservative region right here. You can see that there was a bit of a fight that was going on. Buyers were attempting to push the market to the upside, but the sellers maintained their ground. And you can see that the sells were actually working off this area right here. And you can see that much later on, the market did actually move to the downside quite well, but you can see that there's a pullback, and a deep pullback that's coming in right now. So the three areas that we will be watching out for are these ones right here, and hopefully you can end up taking note of them. So right now, the market seems like it's headed towards the aggressive area. So the buyers really seem like they're really coming in quite hot and quite fast. But let's see how far they can end up going. But at least we do know that the last area where we will be attempting ourselves will definitely be somewhere within here. This is a region of interest. I mean, if you look at the story from the 1 hour time frame, you will see that the market broke to the downside of this area here, but never really came back for some sort of a retest. So there's a possibility the market might actually end up reacting off this region to the downside. The only thing that's a bit worrying about this one is how fast the buyers are coming up. You can see that they're coming up quite aggressive. But at least if they do end up slowing down, somewhere within this region here, then possibly we could end up getting a very good selling opportunity. So just watch out for that. But in case the market breaks and holds above the red SNR to the upside, then unfortunately, at that point in time, there will be no trade for us. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And you can see the three areas that Mitch had pointed out, also an illustration of what to expect. Also a level somewhere within here that maybe would have expected the market to come back till. And you can see that the market did do some sort of a probe within this area here, held to the downside, but you can see that the market really struggled to push to the downside, and you can see that it's really fighting. The buyers who stepped up within this region are really fighting with the sellers who are sitting here. Fortunately, the market hasn't been able to move all the way down to within here, but generally based on what you can see and the choppy move that's happening to the side, or some sort of sideways movement, you can generally see that there's generally a fight that's going on within here. So for this one, these are the same three areas that we did have yesterday that we're going to be having today, but also we'll keep this fourth level here. Reason being, you can see that there's an aggressive push of the seller off this area to the downside. So there's a possibility maybe price may just still come back in within this region here. And maybe that's the price that the market does actually end up needing, before actually making a move to the downside. So we'll still keep it there because it's an area of interest. But also watch out for the region at the top. More or less, the red SNR is, more or less like a major level. So we could easily find that in case the price doesn't react here, at least we'll be having maybe the last chance to look for the sell somewhere within that region there. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the times. You could find that during the London session, the market could be on the pullback, maybe trying to set itself up, and maybe at around 4, 5:30, that's when the market could possibly end up making a move. So just make sure that you watch out for that. So last but not least, for the AUD pairs, we do have the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And of course, it's still going to be the same case today. So the levels also for this one are more or less the same. The story is the same. You can't see yesterday morning price was here. We're expecting maybe the price to pull back in within this region here or break to the downside. Can't see that the market was on the pullback phase more or less for pretty much the whole day. It wasn't until later on that the market did actually end up making a move to the downside, still off this same area that Mitch had pointed out. So this one, I guess a lot of patience was definitely needed for this one. So the levels are the same. Let's see if we can get the market coming back within that semi-aggressive conservative region there. There's also this blue ethanol right here, which is also an area of interest. I mean, if the market comes shy of this area here, you could find that it could just tap in within this area before we get some sort of a selling opportunity here. So just watch out for that. But generally, we want to get the sales as close as possible within this region here. So let's give the market a bit of time. At least, if we do get the sales here, the risk to reward also ends up being much better. If you get the sales now, if you look for the sales now, you don't really have that much room to move to the downside. So you could easily end up running into issues with buyers who are sitting within these regions right here. So watch out for that. Also watch out for the region at the top. In case the market gives some sort of a deep pullback, then at least we should be ready for that as well. So moving on into the next set of currency pairs. So we do have the euros. So we'll start off with the euro against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three regions there that had been pointed out. Of course, when the market was down here, wasn't the best of times to look for the sell. And you clearly can't see why. The buyers really fought really hard. And you can see that the market at one point in time actually went to the upside quite aggressively. Then to some extent came back in, and it seems to be holding within this region right here. And that's the reason why the levels are more or less the same. We did have some interest rate decisions for the euro yesterday, and that's the reason why you will see that a good number of the euros did actually end up reacting from around, I think, 4.15 or thereabout. I think that's when the interest rate decisions did actually end up coming out. So at around 4:15 our time, and you will see that that's when actually the market did actually spike to the upside of quite a number of euros. But it seems that right now the dust has settled. The market seems to be coming back in within this region here. This could be some two probes that have happened within there. The market's starting to seem like it's holding to the downside of that region. So let's wait and see if we can possibly get some very good selling opportunities off here. At least we do know that there are definitely sellers who are somewhere within this area. Anytime you see probes, then it means that there's definitely a bunch of sellers, or I mean, if the probes are to the downside, then a bunch of buyers who are sitting within that region. So at least this is a good sign, but we just need to see the slowdown of the buyers within here. Maybe there's a possibility you could find another probe happening within here, but at least if we do see that sign of a struggle and a hold to the downside, I guess we could start looking for selling opportunities. So do watch out for that. But remember that in case the market breaks that red SNR to the upside, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us. So the next one, this is the euro against the Great British Pound. So for this one yesterday, we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three areas right there, an illustration of what to expect. So in the morning, price was here, it came down fast. Then you can see that the market did get into some sort of a support region within here, and the buyers pushed to the upside quite aggressively, also due to those interest rate decisions that did happen. Then after that, you can see that the market came down also quite fast, and right now it starts holding within this region right here. So for this one, we will also be looking to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. But right now, in terms of looking for the sells, it's not the best of ideas. So give these buyers the benefit of doubt. You never know. Maybe during the London session, the market could be on the pullback phase. Could find the market back within here. Maybe during the US session, 4, 5:30, and from there you could find the sales possibly happening off that region there. But alternatively, in case the market breaks beneath this region to the downside and we do get a hold, then we could potentially try and see whether we could get some conservative selling opportunities on this one. So watch out for that. And of course, no matter what you do, make sure that you do trade with a stop loss and stick within your risk parameters at all times. So the next euro pair is the euro against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And you can see the three areas, also an illustration of what to expect. So we're expecting price to come back in within there, it did not. So it came down, bounced off this area. Then after that, the sellers activated their sells, pushed this market to the downside, and it broke beneath. And you can see that the market did actually come back in within this region for some sort of a retest, after a breach. And you can see that the market did come down, but also this one did need a lot of patience in order to actually get that profit out of this trade. So you can see that this one, the market is also pulling back quite aggressively. So we will be waiting to see how far these buyers can actually end up going. Hopefully they do run out of steam somewhere within this region here. So this is going to be our last area where we will be attempting our selling opportunities. So let's see if the buyers can actually push and possibly attempt to challenge these sellers who are sitting here. Based on how they're coming up, you could possibly find them attacking these sellers and maybe attempting to go up higher, and that will put the market and the price squarely back within this region right here. So watch out for that. Of course, if we do get the sells within here, on your way down, you will need to manage your trade within that region there, and also watch out for this region at the bottom right here. And I guess that's pretty much it in terms of the euro against the Japanese yen. So hopefully you have taken note of that. So the next euro pair, this is the euro against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one, yesterday we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. You can see the three areas right there that had been pointed out. So aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative here. In the morning price was somewhere within this region here. And you can see that at 11, during the London market open, market was within some sort of a resistance area, which was good. If you did attempt to sell there, you can see that the market did calm down quite well, but you did need to manage your trade within there. Then you can see that at 4, price was within a support region. So it's not surprising to see that the market did push to the upside. So make sure that you always take note of that, even as you work on your timing in terms of your trading. You know, it's really important to see and to identify where the market is within the market opening times that we keep on repeating. You could easily find that by doing that, you increase the probability of your trades working out. So this one is a very good example. You can see that at 11, price was there. At 4, price was within a support region. It's not surprising to see that the market reacted off those areas. So right now, if let's say we get the market coming back within this region here, and you find that at 11, price is possibly holding within this region, there's a possibility, I mean, based on the fact that you are in some sort of a range, we're at the bottom of a range, it shouldn't be surprising to see that the buyers can actually react off this area. And you could find that if the market comes up, maybe at around 4, 5:30, price is back in within that region, maybe that's when the sales could possibly end up taking place. So just make sure that you're aware of that. Alternatively, if the market attempts to go up to the upside, then doesn't come back in, you can visually see attempts, of the buyers to push the market to the upside, which are unsuccessful, and the market holds to the downside of this area, then at that point in time, I guess you could attempt your selling opportunities. But right now, I mean, you can see that the sellers are slowing down within here, and generally you can see that also within this area, we do have some sort of a support region. So we're not really clear and out of the woods just yet. So be a bit patient on this one. So also watch out for the red SNR at the top. In case the market comes all the way within that region and breaks it to the upside and can't come back into the downside, then unfortunately at that point in time, we'll have to end up falling back in terms of looking for selling opportunities of the euro against the New Zealand dollar. So the next one, this is the euro against the US dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're also trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can clearly see what the game plan was yesterday. We're expecting price to come back in within there, but you can see that during the London session, the market came down. Then during the US session, it gave some sort of a pullback, or during the US session, did some sort of a probe within this area right here, came back in, held within there, and you can see that from there, the market did actually start to come to the downside. So for this one for today, the levels are almost the same, just a minor adjustment on the level at the bottom right here, just to incorporate the story of what did end up happening yesterday. So hopefully you can end up taking note of that. But in terms of looking for the sales, not really the best of ideas. Let's see if we can get the market reacting off that support region, maybe during the London session and maybe during the US session, price could be back within there. Alternatively, also watch out for the region at the top. We need that much deeper pullback to end up coming in. But so far, you can see that there's really not much of a reaction happening within here. But don't let that fool you. That doesn't mean that the buyers are not interested. They easily could end up coming in. At least if the market breaks to the downside, we get a nice, strong breach to the downside on the pullback. I think if you look for the sells after the breach, those sells will be much better. So for this one, a bit or a lot of patience will definitely be needed. So That's pretty much it in terms of the euro pairs. So hopefully you have taken note of them. So we're going to move on to the last set of currency pairs, which are the Canadian dollar pairs. And we're going to mix and match them up with everything on the buy side. So we'll start off with the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. Can't clearly see the three areas right there that had been pointed out. Also illustrations of what to expect. To some extent, and to a large extent, it did actually do what we're expecting. So price was here. It was either price to come back in there for the sells or maybe come up higher. And you can see that the pullback did happen all through the London session. During the US session, the market came down, bounced off this area, came back again. But you can see that the big sell did actually end up happening much, much later on. Something that you will see with all the cards. There were these movements that happened at around 11 p.m. our time. Not quite sure what exactly did end up happening, but it's quite visible on all the Canadian dollar pairs. And you can see that this one did some sort of a massive move to the downside, came back in, still came back in within this region here. And it's something that we'll also see with the rest of the Canadian dollar pairs. So the game plan is still more or less the same. The levels are the same. The buyers have pushed and they've retaliated. After the sellers came down and they're still pushing to the upside. Let's see if maybe we'll get the market moving somewhere off this region right here. If we do get a sign of the big sellers showing up, then I guess we could potentially try and see whether we could get some selling opportunities here. But also remember that price can come back all the way till within this area here, especially based on the fact that we have these massive wicks that are at the bottom right there. Seems that the buyers have retaliated quite aggressively. So you could find that the sellers could actually be taken all the way back till where they actually started their move. You could find the probes, maybe some sort of a probe happening at the top right there. Then after that, maybe you could find another massive sell coming in. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But remember that the red SNR at the top, in case the market breaks and holds above that region to the upside, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Canadian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas right there that had been pointed out. In the morning, price was here. We're expecting price to come back in within this region. It did actually come back in within here. During the US session, the market started to lift to the upside. I mean, if it got some trades they did need to manage within that region, then you can see some sort of a pullback coming in. Price bounced off this area, and you can see that from there, the market really took off to the upside quite aggressively. And like I pointed out, not quite sure what exactly happened, but from around 11, that's when the market did actually do these massive pushes to the upside or to the downside on the Canadian dollar pairs. So also for this one, you can see that the opposite party has retaliated, massive wick to the top. So the price has come back in. Maybe we could find that this is some sort of a retest of this area here. So I will be on the lookout to see if we could get a slowdown of the sellers. Already they're starting to slow down, but sometimes you find that the market starts to speed up, especially when it comes within a level, also to stop out. Maybe many guys were also looking for buys within that particular area. But at least if we do get the market probing within here, I think there could be a very good buying opportunity on this one. So just watch out for that, but also watch out for the region at the bottom in case the market does end up coming back in within this area here. This is going to be the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get our aggressive buying opportunities. But there's also this level right here that you should also be on the lookout for. Meaning the pullback doesn't come in all the way to within here. There's also a level somewhere within here that you can also watch out for. And if you do get some good buying opportunities, you can definitely end up taking advantage of them. So watch out for that. So the next one, this is the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. And also this one did work out pretty well. So you can see the three areas right there that Mitch had pointed out. So aggressive was right there, conservative here, semi-aggressive, conservative somewhere within this particular region right here. So in the morning, price was here, and it wasn't such a good idea to look for the selling opportunities then, unless we got the pullback coming in. So you can see that the market really fought within this area here, then finally broke to the downside, came back in. Then after that, that's when the massive sell did actually end up coming in. Just like we've seen the massive pushes that did happen on the rest of the Canadian dollar pairs. Also, this one was exactly similar to the rest. So you can see that the market came down, did some sort of a week. The market has been pushed back to the upside. The bars are coming up quite aggressive. Let's see where they will slow down. you could find that they could slow down maybe somewhere within this particular region here. So we will be on the lookout to see what does end up happening. But at least if we do get a massive reaction, by the sellers, and we get some sort of a probe within here, then I guess we could potentially look for the selling opportunities within this area here. But right now, based on the way the buyers are coming up, I'm just thinking there might be a possibility the buyers might actually attempt, to attack these sellers who did actually start this push to the downside. So if that does happen, and the sellers are able to retaliate and we get some sort of a probe and the market holds, watching out for the times. I mean, if that happens and the market is back, within this region at around 5:30, then potentially I think there could be a very good selling opportunity on this one. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But remembering that the red SNR, in case the market breaks and holds above that region to the upside, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us. So the next one, this is the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So this is also a currency pair that we did have yesterday. And we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas that Mitch had pointed out. So aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative, somewhere within this region here. In the morning, price was somewhere within this area right here. And we're expecting maybe the market to attempt to break to the downside, but if we did come back into the upside, then there could have been a very good buying opportunity. And you can see that the market did give a very good buy. This is actually a trade that I did actually end up taking yesterday, although I didn't get the trade all the way till the top within this region here. I just got it when the market came back in within this region, took it from there. Had set an alert somewhere within this area here. So when the market came within this particular region, I did actually end up managing the trade, put the stop loss at break even. But unfortunately, when the market did actually end up pulling back within that region, they actually did end up getting stopped out. So unfortunately, I didn't get the whole move going up, although I did expect the market to get all the way till the top there. But unfortunately, the market got all the way till the top without me. But nonetheless, it's okay. I mean, it's the nature of trading. And, some trades work out fully, some don't. But, I mean, the good thing about it is there'll always be other opportunities. So we'll see what happens today. But this one did work out pretty well. In fact, I do hope that I did end up maybe taking the trade from within, or maybe not moving my stop loss at break even yet. But also, it's not really the best of ideas because you don't really want to give up any profits that you've made, because if the pullback did end up coming in deeper, then it would have been quite unfortunate, going from a profit to, a loss. So today is another day. Let's see what happens. The levels are the same. The market did move to the upside quite aggressively, like we've seen with the rest of the cards. And you can see that it did a massive wick to the upside, came back in, and the price is more or less maintaining within these areas right here. So let's see what happens. Hopefully, we can get the market coming back within this region here. I think I will be looking for the buys within there to potentially see what does end up happening, managing the trade within that region. If we break above here on the pullback, then potentially could end up adding or scaling in possibly within that particular region. So let's see what happens, but also watch out for the region at the bottom right here. There's a possibility price can also come back in within here, especially based on that massive retaliation by the opposite party. So in case that does end up happening, then just make sure that you're ready for that as well. But of course, if price breaks beneath the red SNR to the downside, then unfortunately, there will be no trade for us. So last but not least, in terms of the currency pairs, we do have the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday we were trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas that Mitch had pointed out. Also an illustration of what to possibly end up expecting. So we're expecting maybe price to bounce off this region to the upside, then maybe get some buys. Price broke beneath and actually just held within or beneath this region to the downside. And after that, you can see that later on the market moved to the upside. This one was a bit tricky, but maybe price was actually holding within this area right here. But of course, the area that we were watching out for was within this particular region here. So for this one, let's see if maybe we will be lucky today. So the three areas that we've marked out are these areas right here. And I hope that you can see that there's some good correlation amongst the Canadian dollar pairs. They all did do the same moves at exactly the same time. They've all pulled back together. So maybe when the market start to move, they'll possibly also end up moving together. So watch out for these three regions right here. Let's see if hopefully the market does come back in within this region here. We get some sort of a slowdown. within this area. Maybe potentially we could get some good buying opportunities. There's a possibility price may also just tap in within this area right here. So just watch out for that. So if you're going to be looking for any buys within this area here, and you put your stop loss anywhere above this region right here, then you could easily end up getting stopped out. But at least if the market just even taps, I'm thinking within this area, then comes back into the upside, then holds within this area, I think that buy might potentially end up being a winner. So watch out for that, but also watch out for the region at the bottom in case the pullback does continue to come in and comes in deeper. Then I guess we will be watching out for the red SNR, which is going to be the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get our aggressive buying opportunities. So that's pretty much it in terms of all the currency pairs. So hopefully you've taken note of them. So we will move on into the indices and the commodities. So we'll start off with the NAS 100, move over to the Dow Jones, silver, then gold, and you can see that they're all on the buy side. So let's see what happens or what happened on the NAS 100. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities, and you can see the three regions and also what we're expecting. So price was somewhere here. There was also this SNR that Mitch had pointed out that wasn't the best of areas to possibly end up looking for your buying opportunity, because there was a possibility the sellers within this region were going to react. And you can see that they did actually end up holding the buyers hostage within this region for quite an extended period of time before they pushed the market to the downside. And you can see that within this area, the market did some sort of a probe held within here. I mean, if you look for the buys within this area, this buy was a winner. It's just that it did happen at around maybe 9 p.m. or thereabouts. Not quite sure whether a good number of us were on the charts at that point in time, but at least you can see that that's when the buys did actually end up moving to the upside. So for this one, for today, the levels are the same. The story is the same. The market has just broken above this region to the upside. You could find some sort of a pullback coming in within this region here. If you're really good at trading, you could potentially end up looking for some sort of a buying opportunity within here, but you'll definitely really need to be some sort of a good or a real sniper on the charts. Let me put it that way, because you really need to make sure that you squeeze in and get some proper risk to reward within here, which means that you will need to get some tight stops within this area here. But alternatively, if you can't get that, it's okay. You can leave the market to possibly end up seeing whether it will give you a deeper pullback. If it doesn't, then at least I think your next best bet would possibly be after the market breaks above this region to the upside. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But in terms of chasing the buying opportunities, don't chase them. Of course, definitely lots of people are attempting to hit the buys now, and by so doing, you will definitely be joining the 95, which is definitely something you do not want to do. So moving on into the next one, which is the Dow Jones or the US 30. So for this one, yesterday we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas right there. So in the morning, price was here. We're expecting maybe price to break above here to the upside, or maybe potentially end up reacting off there to come back in. You can see that this one did end up coming back in, and the sellers reacted off there quite aggressively. Price came back in, the buyers reacted, and you can see that the market did actually hold within this region from around 7. You can see that the market did actually push to the upside. The buyers broke above, but the sellers still retaliated quite aggressively off there, but the buyers also retaliated. So I guess maybe price was coming back in within these regions right here, maybe for some proper pricing before the buyers do activate. So for this one, the levels right now are more or less the same. And of course, we're waiting to see what does end up happening within that particular region. I mean, the market has just broken above that SNR somewhere within this area, seems to be holding, but the buyers seem like they've really slowed down. And you can see that there's also a bunch of sellers within this region here. So let's see, we can possibly end up getting some sort of a reaction, maybe quite a number of buyers, especially who are hitting buys within here, having stops within these regions here. They do end up getting stopped out and the market comes back within that area, then does some sort of a probe. I think that buy might potentially end up moving to the upside quite well. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But also alternatively, watch out for this region right here. I mean, if you do get the buys here, the cost is not fully clear because you will still have to go against this seller who's sitting here. But I think if we do clear this region to the upside, I think at that point in time, you will be good to go. So just make sure that you really do watch out for that. And of course, if you do get some sort of a pullback, maybe within this region, then you could potentially try and see whether you could get another buying opportunity within there. So just make sure that you watch out for that. But the bias is to look for buying opportunities for as long as we're holding above that red SNR. For the indices and the commodities, the biases are always to look for the buys. You can look for sells, but just make sure that you're well aware that the selling opportunities that you're taking are counters. So moving on into the next one, which is silver. So for silver, yesterday the bias was also to try to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities as well. So you can see the three areas, right? They're also an illustration of what we were possibly expecting. So price was here, either the market come back in or maybe break above this region to the upside. So it did break and just held and sat on this SNR right here. And after that, you can see that later on the market did push to the upside. Could have been a bit tricky to get that buy, unless maybe you're looking at the minor detail, maybe on a smaller time frame to really see whether you could have gotten a proper entry. But on the 15-minute time frame, it just seems that price broke and just sat on that SNR right there. So let's see if we can end up getting lucky today. So you can see that the market has given some sort of a pullback. The buyers have showed up, and you can see that the sellers are slowing down. Let's just hope we can get the market somewhere as close as possible within here. And I'm really hoping we didn't miss it, especially with this week that did happen within this area right here. But let's just hope that we can get the market coming back in, because if you do jump in on the buys here, then the problem with that trade is that you might actually not end up getting a proper risk to reward on that particular trade. So it's possibly better to either wait for the market to come back in within here. If it doesn't, then maybe waiting for price to break above this region to the upside. I think this trade out high up within that region might give you a much better risk to reward and much less risk compared to maybe trying to attempt your buying opportunities within here, because you'll try and you might easily end up getting squeezed within this area. You can already see that there are a bunch of sellers who are sitting within here, but you can see that if you get the buy down here, by the time price starts to come back in within this region here, even if you start to run into issues with the opposite party, you could easily end up managing that trade. So just make sure you watch out for that. Watching out for risk is actually very, very key. Personally, before I take any trade, if the risk to reward doesn't make sense, even if the setup looks good, let's say like if I'm looking for the buys and the buys have really come in, if the risk to reward doesn't make sense, then I will not be jumping in on that trade, because at the end of the day, the only thing that will keep you afloat in trading is actually risk to reward, because losses are inevitable. So it's up to you to make sure that when you win way more than actually when you win. And that's how you'll actually be able to cover your losses and actually stay afloat. So if the risk to reward doesn't make sense, I would advise you to better not actually not end up taking that trade. So last but not least, we do have gold. So for gold, yesterday morning, the bias was to try to see whether we could have gotten sells. Of course, that was based on the fact that we were watching out for this seller right here. But of course, once price broke above this region to the upside, the bias did actually end up changing. And of course, moving into today, we will be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So these are the three areas we will be watching out for. And let me zoom in so that it's very clear. So right now we're high up within this region. And by the way, this is the highest price that gold has ever been. So I think if we break above this region right here, then I guess we're just moving into oblivion. We don't really know where we're heading, but we'll definitely have to keep up with the SNRs, and of course, based on what pullbacks we end up seeing. So right now, in terms of looking for the buys, it's not really the best of ideas. You can already see that the buyers have come up. Definitely a fight that's going on within this particular region there. So let's just hope that we can get some sort of a pullback coming in. If we do get some sort of a pullback, I think there could be some very good buying opportunities within here. But if we do break above this region to the upside, I guess we'll still have to wait for the pullback. Regardless, before we take any trade, it's better to actually wait for the pullback. So let the big boys do the job of breaking the level. Wait for the pullback. If that doesn't end up happening, high probability price will give you some sort of a pullback. You could end up looking for the buying opportunity. So for this one, like I'm pointing out, I mean, we've just broken the high that gold had made. So you can see back in October, this was October 31st or thereabouts. That's when the gold was on an all-time high at that point in time. I think it's exactly what, I think 3 months, today being the 31st of Jan. So price is back in within there, and you can see that price is just slightly higher than what it was the previous time. So I guess if we do breach this level to the upside, then it's just a matter of really waiting for the pullbacks to come back in. But I guess history is definitely in the making once again. So let's see what does end up happening. And of course, remember the red SNR right here. In case the market gives a much deeper pullback, we'll still be watching out for buys, but remembering that this is going to be the last day where we will be attempting our buying opportunities. If the market breaks and holds beneath that region to the downside, then unfortunately, at that point in time, there will be no trade for us. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of everything. Hopefully, you've taken note of that. In terms of the economic calendar, on the economic front, today there will be quite a number of news events, by the way. So it's quite jam-packed. So we do have some GBP news that are going to be coming out at 10 in a bit. We do have some Euro news events as well. So you can see that during the London session, quite a number of news events are going to be happening. Then you can see also moving into the US session from 4, also some Euro news events happening there. And you can see that there are quite a number of USD and Canadian dollar news events. So I guess we will be having a lot of movement on the charts today. So just make sure that you maximize on the opportunities that will be there. And of course, make sure that you manage your trades and get as much as you can out of the charts. So looking at the chat box, if there are any questions, I'm not really seeing any, which is okay. So I guess everything is perfectly clear. But if it's not, feel free to reach out to us, and also feel free to watch and rewatch this session as many times as possible. I mean, that's the reason why we have it on YouTube, so that at least you can use it as a resource. And also remember to like and subscribe. So I guess that's pretty much it from me. I want to thank you guys so much for making the time to be here with us today, and also this week, and also this January. We finally made it to the end. 100 days of January are over. Some guys say it's a month of cabbage and misheveve. It's finally over. So let's see what February has to offer. So we hope to see you on Monday as we start off the new month. So do enjoy and do have a lovely weekend. Remember also, if you do need more education and more information in terms of trading, you can also sign up for the Afriforex Amplified program. There should be a link in the video description that should guide you there. It doesn't cost you anything to put yourself on the waiting list. And of course, we'll definitely be in touch with you, and we'll see if we can actually end up making that happen. So I guess we'll see you guys on Monday. So do have a lovely weekend. Do have a lovely day on the charts. And of course, God bless, and may the peeps be with you. Bye for now.